What's going on, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today I want to talk about my biggest issue with the Switch 2 1 year later, GameCube Nintendo Classics. Because honestly, after nearly a full year, it feels like Nintendo has completely dropped the ball. When Nintendo first announced that GameCube games were coming to Nintendo Switch Online, there was a ton of excitement. The GameCube is one of Nintendo's most beloved consoles and one of my favorites. It has an incredible library of games, a unique controller, and a lot of people have been asking for GameCube games on modern hardware for years. So when Nintendo finally announced it, expectations were understandably high. At launch, the service started with just 3 games. Now, some people defended that. They said Nintendo would slowly build up the library over time, and that by the end of the first year, we'd probably have a pretty solid selection of titles. Well, nearly a year later, we can now look at the service and ask a simple question. What exactly has changed? Because after almost an entire year, Nintendo has only added 6 more games to the service. Think about that for a second. 3 games at launch, Soul Calibur 2, Wind Waker, and F-Zero GX. 6 games added afterward, Mario Strikers, Chibi Robo, Luigi's Mansion, Wario World, Path of Radiance, and Pokemon XD. 9 games total after nearly a year. When you actually see a screenshot of the lineup, it almost feels unreal. The GameCube has a massive library of games, and somehow Nintendo has managed to add only a handful of them over an entire year. And that's where the frustration starts to set in. Because it's not just the number of games, it's also the games that are missing. Let's start with one of the biggest examples, Mario Sunshine. This one is especially confusing because Nintendo themselves showed it in the overview trailer in April of 2025. And if you've used the GameCube controller with the service, you'll know that Nintendo included sound effects from Super Mario Sunshine. Why use Mario Sunshine sound effects if you don't plan on adding the game anytime soon? Yet here we are, nearly a year later, and Mario Sunshine is nowhere to be found. No announcement, no release date, not even a hint from Nintendo. It's just absent. And that's particularly strange because Super Mario Sunshine isn't some obscure title. It's one of the most recognizable GameCube games ever made. It's part of the mainline Mario series. Its absence feels incredibly noticeable. Then we have another huge omission, Mario Party. Not a single Mario Party game has been added to the service. None. 0. And that's honestly kind of shocking. The GameCube era had some incredibly memorable and, in my opinion, the best Mario Party entries. These games are perfect for Nintendo Switch Online because they're multiplayer focused and would likely be extremely popular among subscribers. Imagine hopping online with friends and playing classic GameCube Mario Party games. That sounds like exactly the kind of thing Nintendo Switch Online should be promoting. Yet nearly a year later, there isn't even one Mario Party game available. Again, it just feels like a massive missed opportunity. Now, there is one major GameCube game that I understand not being on the service yet, and that's Mario Kart Double Dash. Would I like to see Double Dash added? Absolutely. But I can also understand Nintendo's thinking. Right now, Nintendo wants people talking about Mario Kart World. They want it to be the big multiplayer racing experience on their newest system. If they suddenly drop Double Dash onto Nintendo Switch Online, a lot of people would immediately jump back into that game because it's still incredibly popular and beloved by fans. So from a business perspective, I can at least see why Nintendo may be holding on to Double Dash for the time being. I don't necessarily agree with it, but I understand it. The bigger issue, though, isn't any individual game. It's the release schedule. The drip feeding has been absolutely horrible. One game every 2 months simply isn't enough. And I know some people will say, well, Nintendo has always drip-fed retro games. That's true, but this feels even slower. The GameCube library isn't getting enough additions to maintain excitement. Every time a game gets announced, fans get excited for a few days, and then the service goes quiet again for another couple of months. There's no momentum. There's no sense that the library is rapidly growing. Instead, it feels stagnant. And that's a shame because GameCube games were one of the most exciting additions Nintendo could have made to Switch Online. This should have been a huge selling point for the service. Instead, it feels like something that's barely being supported. Then we had the June Nintendo Direct. For a lot of fans, this seemed like the perfect opportunity. Nintendo could announce a roadmap. They could reveal several upcoming GameCube games. They could finally give us Mario Sunshine. Maybe even Mario Party. maybe surprise us with another major title. But the Direct came and went, and there was nothing. Absolutely nothing. The GameCube service wasn't mentioned at all. No new additions, no announcements, no teasers, no future plans. It was completely absent. And I think that's what has started worrying some fans. Because when Nintendo doesn't talk about something for long periods of time, people begin wondering how much attention it's actually receiving internally. Finally, we have one of the strangest things Nintendo has done recently. Nintendo put out a tweet advertising Mario Strikers. Sounds normal, right? Except for one problem. Mario Strikers had already been on the service for nearly a full year. Why are we getting advertisements for games that have been available for such a long time instead of announcements for new editions? It almost gives the impression that Nintendo doesn't have much else to say about the service right now. And that's not exactly encouraging. At the end of the day, I don't think anyone expected Nintendo to release every GameCube game immediately. But I do think people expected more than getting to June 2026, and we're still missing 2 games shown to be coming in April of 2025, that being Mario Strikers and Pokemon Colosseum. Because after nearly a year, having only 9 games available on a service built around one of Nintendo's most beloved consoles just feels disappointing. There's still time for Nintendo to turn things around. The GameCube library is incredible. Mario Sunshine, Mario Party, Double Dash, and so many other classics are still waiting in the wings. The potential is absolutely there. The question is whether Nintendo actually plans on taking advantage of it. But what do you think? Has Nintendo handled GameCube on Nintendo Switch Online poorly? Or am I expecting too much? And what GameCube games do you want to see added next? Let me know down in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like and subscribe for more Nintendo news, rumors, and discussions. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.